Nathan Hale believed that hard work built a man's character. He wasn't flashy or loud, and most people didn't even know how many properties he owned. He started as a construction worker, saving every spare dollar he could, fixing broken homes on weekends, and renting them out one by one. Over the years, Nathan quietly bought almost the entire block, but he never told anyone, not even his son Carter. Carter grew up with a roof over his head, food on the table, and new shoes every school year. Nathan thought he was doing a good job as a father. But as Carter grew older, Nathan noticed the change. Carter wanted more. More money, more freedom, more luxury. He hated the old truck his father drove and rolled his eyes at Nathan's plain clothes. One Thursday night, it all came crashing down. Nathan was fixing a loose cabinet door in the kitchen when Carter stormed in, slamming his phone on the counter. "I'm done living like this," Carter snapped. Nathan looked up, tired from work. "Like what?" "Like you. Like some broke man stuck in this boring old house. My friends are out there living their lives, buying cars, starting businesses, and I'm stuck here with a father who doesn't even try." Nathan set his tools down slowly. "You think I don't try? Everything you have, this house, your college education, came from me working 2 jobs when you were a kid." Carter's face twisted with anger. "Yeah, and what do you have to show for it, Dad? You're still here. Still fixing cabinets in this dump. I'm not going to end up like pathetic you." Those words hit Nathan like a punch in the chest. For a moment, the kitchen was silent except for the hum of the fridge. Nathan's voice was quiet. "Pathetic." Carter grabbed his phone. "You heard me." He walked out, slamming the door behind him. Nathan stood there for a long time, staring at the tools in his hands. He felt a pain he hadn't felt in years, not because his son was angry, but because Carter really believed what he said. That night, Nathan sat at the dining table, staring at the framed deed to their house he kept in a folder with other papers. He had built this home with his bare hands. He had fixed every crack, every leak. To Carter, it was just a boring old house. A few days later, Nathan went to check the folder and froze. The deed was gone. At first, he thought maybe he had misplaced it, but after searching every drawer, every cabinet, he knew. Carter had taken it. Nathan drove to the bank first thing the next morning. He asked to speak to the branch manager and explain the situation. The manager confirmed Carter had tried to use the deed as collateral for a personal loan. Nathan's jaw clenched. The manager looked at him nervously. "We haven't processed it yet. If you want to block it, we can." "Block it," Nathan said calmly. "Right now." He left the bank in silence, gripping the steering wheel tightly. He wasn't just hurt anymore, he was angry. His son hadn't just disrespected him with words. He had crossed a line. That evening, Carter came home smiling like nothing had happened. "Guess what, Dad? Big things are coming soon. You'll see." Nathan looked at him carefully. "You went to the bank, didn't you?" Carter froze for a second, then forced a laugh. "So what if I did? I'm doing something with my life." "You stole my house deed," Nathan said, his voice calm but sharp. Carter rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on, Dad. You don't even understand how this works. It's just a loan. I'll pay it back. Stop acting like I robbed you." Nathan stepped closer. "You didn't ask. You took something that wasn't yours to take. It's my future, too." Carter snapped. "You're standing in my way." Nathan didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just nodded slowly. "If that's how you see me, then maybe it's time you learned what standing on your own really feels like." Carter scoffed. "Good. Maybe I'll move out. Maybe I'll never live under your roof again." Nathan turned back to the table and picked up his tools. "Then start packing." Carter glared at him, but Nathan didn't look up. The young man stormed off to his room, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Nathan sat there in the quiet house, the same house he had built piece by piece, and let the anger fade into something else. Determination. If Carter wanted to see who Nathan Hale really was, he was about to find out. The night after Carter slammed his bedroom door, Nathan barely slept. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying his son's words over and over. "Pathetic. I'll never end up like you." They weren't just words of anger. They were words of pride, arrogance, and disrespect. But Nathan wasn't the type of man who reacted with shouting or fists. He had lived too long, worked too hard, and learned that patience always beat rage. Carter thought he was clever, thought he was about to build a future by cutting corners. But Nathan knew better. He knew that real lessons in life only came when a person had to face the consequences of their actions. The next morning, Nathan went to see his lawyer, Benjamin Lewis. Ben had been a friend for years, They had gone to school together, and while Nathan built houses, Ben built a career in law. Ben greeted him in his office with concern. "You look like you haven't slept in days, Nate. What's going on?" Nathan set his hands on the desk. "It's Carter. He stole the deed to my house. Tried to use it for a loan at the bank." Ben blinked in shock. "He what?" Nathan nodded. "I already blocked it, but I don't just want to stop him. I want to teach him. He thinks I'm nothing, Ben. He doesn't know what I've built." Ben leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin. "What are you planning?" Nathan's voice was steady. "He wants to move out. He's convinced he's going to prove he's better than me. Let him. But when he signs that lease, he's going to find out the truth, that I own the very ground he's standing on." For a moment, Ben just stared at him. Then a slow smile spread across his face. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," Nathan said. Ben pulled out a folder. "All right then. We'll make sure everything is airtight. If he tries to rent, the lease comes through me. He won't see your name until the last second." That afternoon, Nathan went back home. Carter was already packing boxes in his room, throwing clothes into bags and muttering under his breath. He barely looked at his father. "Finally leaving?" Nathan asked from the doorway. "Yeah," Carter said sharply. "I'll prove to you I don't need this house or you." Nathan didn't respond. He just nodded once and walked away. 2 days later, Carter announced proudly at breakfast, "I found a place. Way better than this old dump. Modern, nice view, close to downtown. You'll see, Dad, I'm moving up." Nathan just sipped his coffee. "Good luck." Inside, though, Nathan's plan was already in motion. Ben had set up everything. The apartment Carter wanted? One of Nathan's properties. Carter didn't know, because Nathan had kept his ownership hidden through different business names and quiet management. Carter thought he was escaping, but he was walking straight back into his father's hands. Later that week, Carter dressed sharp in a pressed shirt, acting like a businessman, and went to the rental office. Nathan wasn't there, only Ben, sitting at the desk with a neat stack of papers. "Carter Hale," Ben said with a polite smile. "Yeah, that's me," Carter replied, full of confidence. "Here to sign the lease." Ben slid the papers over. "Of course. Everything's ready. Just look over the contract." Carter flipped through quickly, not even really reading. Yeah, whatever. Let's get this done. Make sure you check the landlord's name at the bottom," Ben said casually. Carter laughed. "Why? Doesn't matter. Some faceless company or old man trying to make rent money. Who cares?" Ben leaned back, folding his hands. "Go ahead. Read it." Carter sighed, rolled his eyes, and finally glanced at the bottom of the page. His smile froze. His eyes widened. Landlord, Nathan Hale. His father's name. Carter's mouth went dry. This is a joke." Ben shook his head. "Not a joke. A legally binding lease. If you want this place, you sign. You'll pay rent every month to Nathan Hale." Carter slammed the papers shut. No way. He can't." "Actually," Ben said calmly, "he can. Because he owns this property. And not just this one. He owns the block." Carter felt the blood drain from his face. He stood up, pacing. No, he can't. He's just some old man fixing cabinets in a beat-up house." Ben shrugged. "That's what you thought. But the truth is in black and white. Your father's not who you think he is." Carter grabbed the papers again, staring at his father's name. His hands were shaking. And that was when the office door opened. Nathan walked in. Calm, steady, wearing his old work jacket. He looked straight at his son. "You wanted independence," he said. "Then you'll have it. But you'll learn it on my terms. You'll live here, Carter, and you'll pay rent. To me." The room went silent. Carter's jaw clenched. His pride screamed at him to throw the papers back, to walk out. But deep down, he knew the truth. Every path he tried to take still led back to his father. For a long moment, Carter just stared at the lease papers on the table. His face was pale, his hands trembling as he tried to understand what he was looking at. Nathan Hale. His own father. The name was there in bold, black ink, written where the landlord's name should be. It felt like the walls were closing in on him. "This isn't real," Carter muttered, shaking his head. "This is some kind of trick." Nathan stood calmly across the room, his weathered jacket still smelling faintly of sawdust. His voice was steady, almost too calm. "It's not a trick, son. It's the truth. I own this building. I own this block. And if you want to live here, you'll sign that lease and pay rent to me." Carter's pride boiled over. He slammed his fist against the table, startling even Ben, who had been sitting quietly like a referee in a boxing match. "You lied to me," Carter shouted. "You made me think you were just some broke old man wasting his life fixing cabinets. And all this time you owned everything." Nathan didn't flinch. "I didn't lie. I worked. I built. I saved. I chose not to boast about what I had because money doesn't define me. Respect does. And you've shown me none." Carter's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. He wanted to storm out, to scream, to tell himself it wasn't true. But the papers sat there like a mountain, undeniable and heavy. "You think this proves something?" Carter spat. "You think this makes you better than me?" "No," Nathan said softly. "This proves something to you. That I'm not pathetic. That everything you've mocked me for, the long hours, the quiet life, the sacrifices, it all built something you couldn't even see." Carter turned to Ben. "You knew about this, didn't you? You're both laughing at me." Ben raised his hands carefully. "No one's laughing, Carter. Your father just wanted you to understand the truth." The truth. The word echoed in Carter's head like an insult. He grabbed the pen lying on the desk and held it tightly in his hand. "You really think I'll sign this? You think I'll let you control me like this?" Nathan stepped closer, his eyes firm. "You already let me control you when you stole from me. But this isn't about control, Carter. It's about consequences. You wanted to live on your own. Fine. You can. But nothing in this world is free. If you want a roof, you'll pay for it, just like everyone else." Carter's pride screamed at him to tear the papers apart, to throw them in his father's face. But another voice whispered quietly in the back of his mind. A voice he hated. A voice that reminded him he had no other options. Because the truth was cruel. Every other apartment in the area, every house he thought he could run to, belonged to Nathan. His father had bought them all over the years, hiding his ownership under business names Carter had never cared to notice. He had been trapped by his own arrogance. "I'll find another place," Carter said, tossing the pen back on the table. "Somewhere you don't own. Somewhere far away." Nathan didn't raise his voice. "Then do it. But remember, Carter, you can't build your future by stealing from mine. You want something of your own? Earn it. The way I did." Carter stormed toward the door, his anger making his steps heavy. He yanked it open and slammed it shut behind him. Nathan stood there in the silence that followed, his expression unreadable. Ben leaned back in his chair, letting out a slow breath. "That was brutal," Ben said quietly. Nathan shook his head. "It was necessary." Meanwhile, Carter drove aimlessly through the city that night, his mind racing. Every street, every corner reminded him of the truth he couldn't escape. He passed familiar houses, apartments, shops, and wondered if his father secretly owned those too. He felt like the ground beneath him was no longer his. By midnight, he sat in his car, parked outside the house he swore he'd never live in again. The lights were off, and the place looked as steady as ever. The house his father had built with his own hands. For the first time, Carter noticed the strength in those walls, the quiet pride in their survival. And for the first time, he felt small. The next morning, he woke up to a call from the rental office. The manager explained in a polite but firm tone that if he wanted the apartment, the lease still needed to be signed. Otherwise, the place would be given to someone else. Carter sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the phone in his hand. His pride told him to let it go, to keep running. But his reality told him the opposite. Without that lease, he had nowhere to go. By noon, he found himself walking back into the office. Nathan was waiting this time, sitting quietly in the corner. The papers were still on the desk. Carter picked up the pen again. His hand trembled, not from fear but from rage and humiliation. Slowly, he scrawled his signature across the bottom line. When he was done, Nathan stood up and looked at him. "You're my tenant now." Carter's throat tightened. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. He had tried to steal his father's house. Now he was paying rent to live under his father's name. It was the cruelest twist of fate. Carter walked out of the office with the signed lease still burning in his hand. The paper felt heavier than a brick. Each step back to his car felt like a defeat. He had dreamed of escaping his father's shadow, of proving he was stronger, smarter, faster. Instead, he had walked right into a trap of his own making. That night, he moved into the apartment. It was modern, clean, and everything he had wanted. Yet it felt like a prison. Every wall reminded him of his father's signature. Every corner whispered the same truth. "This isn't yours. This is Nathan Hale's." At first, Carter tried to act like nothing had changed. He invited friends over, showing off the apartment like it was proof of his success. But deep down, shame gnawed at him. When his friends asked how he afforded the rent, he lied. He told them he had gotten a big loan, or that he was working on a business deal. He couldn't admit the truth, that he was paying rent to the very man he called pathetic. Meanwhile, Nathan stayed quiet. He didn't gloat. He didn't throw Carter's mistakes in his face. He simply mailed the rent slips every month, just like he did with all his tenants. Carter's name was no different from the others. To Nathan, this wasn't revenge. It was a lesson. But to Carter, it was torture. One morning, about 3 months into living in the apartment, Carter woke up to find an envelope slipped under his door. It was a maintenance notice. The heating system in the building needed repairs, and the landlord would be inspecting the units. The landlord, his father. When Nathan arrived later that day, Carter felt his stomach twist. Nathan wore his same old work jacket, carrying his toolbox. He moved through the apartment calmly, checking pipes and vents, just like any landlord would. "You don't need to do this yourself," Carter muttered bitterly. "You could hire someone." Nathan glanced at him. "Why should I pay someone to do a job I know how to do? Work keeps me honest. Reminds me what I built this all for." Carter fell silent, watching his father's steady hands tighten bolts and check wiring. For the first time, he saw what he had always ignored: strength. Not flashy, not loud, but steady strength. After the inspection, Nathan stood at the door. "Your rent is due in 3 days." Carter's face burned. "You don't have to say it like that." Nathan looked at him carefully. "How else should I say it? You're not my child when it comes to this apartment. You're my tenant. You wanted independence, and this is what independence feels like. Bills, responsibility, work. You can't have freedom without cost." The words stayed with Carter long after Nathan left. Weeks turned into months. Paying rent became a routine that slowly broke Carter's pride. He started working longer shifts at his job, saving what little money he could. He no longer wasted it on flashy clothes or nights out with friends. Each month, when he handed over that envelope with his father's name on it, he was reminded of the lesson. Nothing in life was free. One evening, Carter visited the old house he had sworn never to step into again. The door was unlocked. Inside, Nathan was sitting at the kitchen table, polishing a set of old tools. Carter hesitated in the doorway. "Can I sit?" Nathan gestured to the chair across from him. For a long time, they sat in silence. Finally, Carter spoke, his voice quieter than it had ever been. "I hated you. I thought you were weak. But I was wrong. You worked for everything. And I tried to take it. I was stupid." Nathan didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He just nodded. "I didn't want to break you, Carter. I wanted to show you. You can build something for yourself, but not by stealing from me. Respect isn't given. It's earned." Carter swallowed hard, fighting back the sting in his eyes. "I get it now. I don't want to just live in your shadow. I want to build my own. But I'll do it the right way." Nathan placed the polished wrench on the table and looked at his son. For the first time in years, there was no anger in his eyes, only a quiet pride. "Then start tomorrow," Nathan said simply. "Work hard. Save. Learn. And one day, when you own something of your own, you'll understand why I did this." From that night on, things began to change. Carter still paid rent, but he no longer saw it as humiliation. He saw it as a reminder, a constant push to work harder. Slowly, his bitterness faded, replaced by determination. Months later, he stood outside the apartment building at dawn, watching the sun rise over the block his father owned. For the first time, he didn't feel trapped. He felt challenged. The man he had once called pathetic had become the man he wanted to learn from. And though Carter's pride still burned, it now burned with a purpose.